people that have nighttime schedule, work schedules to fall asleep during the day, it's supposed to have darkness.
If you're supposed to have darkness. So the question was, what do people that work at night or have nighttime schedules do? Generally, we have them keep a consistent schedule. So instead of flipping back to sleeping at night when they have the day off, they keep a consistent schedule, and we actually have them block light on their drive home from work or their walk home from work, so that they have less light exposure. And sometimes we use things like sleep aids or melatonin to help offset some of that imbalance that's caused from unnatural sleep times.
I fall asleep at the beginning of it.
Okay.
And for 4 hours. And I'll wake up and I can get back.
You can't get back to sleep.
Yeah.
So generally what I recommend when you can't get back to sleep, so I recommended some good sleep habits, so keeping a consistent sleep-wake schedule. It's to actually not look at the clock and to get up out of bed.
Yes.
If you think it's been 20 minutes, not because you're watching the clock, and go do something that doesn't involve an electronic device, and you go back to bed when you're sleepy and you still get up at the same time. And it does take more than a couple of nights of doing that. So it can take weeks of really bad sleep and not getting things
I've been
going.
that way for years, you know.
So you have a more complicated case, sir. So,
wow.
huh? Yeah. So you might be someone that needs to come see me to have a more comprehensive look at what's going on with your sleep.
Okay,
Yeah.
Seems great, normally, and then it starts off.
Yeah, and that does happen to a lot of people, but there are a lot of different reasons that can be going on. Does anybody else have a question?
I have a problem sleeping, and I have to take this. Suda. Yes. And that seems to help.
Okay. So it has some melatonin, and this 5-HTP is something that you may have heard with turkey or something that makes you sleepy. Generally, I don't recommend any over-the-counter. If it works for you, that's wonderful, and I hope that it has what it has in it. But I don't know if there's really melatonin in over-the-counter medications. I don't know if they say, because it's not FDA approved. So I can say that this has melatonin in it, and I just opened it up and sell it. But some of them really do have what they say, and if it's helping you and you don't have any side effects, then you can continue to take it in moderation. Okay. That's fine. Yes, ma'am?
I seem to get cramps in my legs at night.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but I end up waking up and standing up and walking a little bit, and then so I go back to bed and go back to sleep, but I don't know what the cramps come from. And so when I asked my first doctor, she said, oh, drink a lot of water.
Drink a lot of water. Okay. You can drink a lot of water, so you want to make sure stretching, because that can help prevent cramping. Sometimes low magnesium can be something that causes cramping, so you can either take Epsom salt, which is just magnesium. You can take a bath in Epsom salt. That helps relax the muscles sometimes. And sometimes actually, and not drinking in excess, but tonic water is helpful for cramps because it has quinine, which is something that can help with cramps that we don't typically prescribe. But in tonic water, it's at a low enough dose. As long as you're not drinking gallons and gallons of it, you can say, I told you to do that. Okay? Anybody else have any questions? All right, I'm going to come to you because I have some trouble hearing.
I wake up every 2 hours to go to the bathroom. Is there anything I can do about that?
Okay, so that is a good question. You would want to, watch your fluid intake before, but if you say, I stopped drinking water 4 hours before bedtime, I still wake up every hour, and I don't have excessive urination during the day, then that might be a soft sign that something else like apnea is going on. So you may have an underlying sleep disorder that's keeping you awake. Sometimes with adults you wake up and then you're like, oh, I should go to the bathroom, so I have to go to the bathroom later. But that can be different if you really are having to urinate multiple times. So that would be something I would look into. If you have anything else, snoring, sleepiness, something of that nature. Questions?
My problem is I keep drinking in the night, and when I go back next morning, I feel exhausted. I even think of what happened in my dream, and I feel tired next all day. It affects my job, I think. So I don't know what happened in my
Some people have, so the question was about dreaming and feeling fatigued during the day. So some people will report kind of very vivid dreams or dreams where they feel very worn out, and sometimes that can be normal, that you're waking up very frequently. But sometimes when people remember their dreams, you have to wake up to remember your dream. So at some point you're waking up, you may be waking up very frequently, remembering that dream, and that fragmentation of your sleep could be causing daytime symptoms. So I don't know why that would be in your case, but that would probably need more investigation, especially if it's affecting your work performance. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? In just a moment.
Sure.
Most nights I wake up 2 hours after going to sleep, and that happens almost to the dot, and it happens no matter what time I go to sleep. I've been up all night, and I go 3 or 4 a.m. or I go at 10 p.m. And I wake up usually feeling hungry.
You wake up feeling angry?
Hungry.
Why are you angry?
Hungry.
Hungry.
Oh, you're hungry. That makes more sense. Not to pry into other medical history, do you have any other sleeping disorders?
I have.
You don't have to answer that. But basically, I'll be general with your question. So sometimes people will wake up hungry either because they generally eat immediately after they wake up. So if you wake up if your habit is to wake up after 2 hours of sleep and eat every night, then your body is cued to wake up to eat. So that's a habit that we have to kind of reverse. The other thing is, are we looking at an underlying sleep disorder that may be fragmenting your sleep, where you're sleep deprived in a sense, even though you're getting enough sleep, and that you're having that increased hunger for some reason. So that hormonal drive to eat, like I was talking about, so apnea or limb movements or something else that might be waking you up unbeknownst, can lead to hunger. And I'm glad you're not angry when you're waking up. Okay, so you had a question?
Yes. Are there any techniques to help you shift your sleep patterns based upon the time zone you're in? So that if you're used to the East Coast time zone and then for some reason you have to go to the West Coast for prolonged periods of time, but you're still on East Coast sleep pattern, how do you shift that?
Generally speaking, it just depends on how long you're going to be away. So if you're going to be going somewhere for 2 weeks, you're going to want to shift to the time zone that you're traveling in. If you're going to be gone for 2 days, you're going to want to keep your home time zone. And it depends which direction you're going and how many time zones it is. So if you go west, you're staying up later. And it's much easier for most people to say, you stay up later tonight, an hour or 2 hours, then go to sleep 2 hours early. So it's much more difficult for people to go earlier. So when you go from California to New York, you will have more difficulty because you're trying to go to sleep back on New York time. That being said, you can, if it's something that's planned ahead, we can actually structure light therapy and melatonin to help either delay your bedtime, make it later, or make it earlier, depending on your needs. So if you're going to be in Europe and you're going to be ahead, sometimes we can plan a couple of days ahead. It just depends on how flexible your sleep schedule is. But generally, the timing of light exposure is extremely important. So which direction you're traveling helps, and again, the number of time zones. So, for example, if you're going to London and you get there first thing in the morning, you don't want to expose yourself to light because it will make your bedtime, the wrong time for London. So you want to wait till the afternoon and expose yourself to bright light because it will delay your bedtime to more London time. So you'll be going to bed later. So there's a lot of things that we can do. We use melatonin, which is our darkness hormone, sometimes with jet lag or switching time zones to help facilitate that process. So we use the light and the dark, so the dark being the melatonin and the light being either artificial light or sunlight, if you're able to get that.
How do you not expose yourself to light if you are arriving in the morning?
Sunglasses. So it just depends on, so if you were an athlete and you really needed to be at peak performance, we'd have wraparound shades for you. You'd get to your hotel room, you dark it up. You would avoid electronic devices, those type of things. So for example, you may go to, wear some sunglasses, go to your hotel room, take a short little nap, and then get up. So it's not, complete, removal of sunlight, because that's not very practical, but it's trying to limit the exposure. So you're not outside walking around right at that time, that you kind of give yourself some time. It's not the worst thing in the world if it happens to you, it's just if you're trying to really kind of do better with the jet lag, there are certain rules you can follow. It just depends where you are, and also what time your bedtime is, because that tells me there's something called melatonin. When we have our dim light melatonin onset, which is the lowest of the melatonin, before or after that time, light exposure does either delay our time to go to sleep or it moves it up. So it's very important. So it would have to be person dependent. So that's why I can't I can give some general answers, but it would also depend on your regular your schedule. Oh, yes.
Now, you may have covered this, I was a few minutes late. I wasn't sleeping, but I was a few minutes late. Now, is there an optimum amount of sleep? I mean, I've heard some people say 8 hours. Now, historically, for me, I generally sleep 5 or 6 hours. I know it's not a lot of sleep, but would you say that, say, an adult or a senior should get at least, boom, whatever it is, 7 hours or 8 hours?
I'd like to say boom, so I will say that. Most of the time for seniors, we recommend between 7 and 8 hours. So general adults, it's between 7 and 9 hours, and that can be, at least 7 hours. Now, there's a very small subset of the population that gets by on 5 or 6 hours of sleep, and that's all they need. But that's a problem in the U.S. because a lot of people think they are those people, and they are not. But you may be what we call a short sleeper. And that does occur, but we just generally recommend 7 hours. That can't be forced. If you've always gotten 6 hours and you feel wonderful and you don't have any daytime symptoms, then that could be the case with you. But most of the time we recommend between 7 and 8, or between 7 and 9 for adults. And then children need more sleep. So as we get older, we need less sleep. And unfortunately, as we get older, we have more awakenings that are part of natural sleep physiology, meaning you're guaranteed to wake up a couple of times. So that being known, it's okay to have awakenings during the night.
And one other thing, and it's a relatively recent habit, I've been having a drink, actually maybe even a Coca-Cola, a little Coke, like in the middle of the night, I think I'm a little dry, I switch to Coke, not a Coke.
I would try some, a carbonated beverage that didn't have caffeine if you like that, or without sugar, just because, any caffeine during the night will fragment your sleep, whether you're aware of it or not. So I generally don't recommend that. Some people might drink something an hour before bedtime so they can or hour before their wake time so they can wake up, but generally don't. Caffeine before bed or during the night is not a good idea.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any questions?
It's not quite a question. I feel like a hopeless case. The most I get is 4 hours a night interrupted, and I'm always tired. I've had a sleep study done. They recommended CPAP. I did it, and they said it was turning my obstructive sleep apnea into central. I had to stop using it. I'm in the 5 to 10% that can't use it. You can't use drugs because that slows it down, as you said. You can't do that. I have had hot flashes every hour and a half in the last 17 years. My oncologist said I will have it for the rest of my life. I get up to urinate. I have such interrupted sleep, and I am exhausted all the time. I've tried I went to see if I could have a mechanical device in my mouth. I'm not a candidate for that. I can tell you details later on that. I don't know what to do.
Have you seen a sleep specialist before?
Oh, yeah, it's like a while. I stayed overnight twice.
Oh, did you get a consult? Did you see one up at the sleep doctor?
Of course. Oh, sure. But we can't get a sleep study without that, right?
No, any physician can order.
Oh, I see. Oh, no, I went to sleep specialist.
Okay, so you went to the sleep specialist. You have a complicated case, it's probably out of the scope of tonight's lecture, but yeah, you would probably need some more investigation to,
Is there anything you've done in Horizon? I'll give you my name. I'll be the scapegoat. I'll be a it's just guinea pig. I don't know what to do.
For central apneas, yes. So there are CPAP and there's BiPAP, and then there's something called auxiliary ventilation, which is just like a CPAP that's used to treat central apneas. So there's have devices now, so I don't know how long ago your study was. Okay. So we definitely use that more, they're more complex, but it's the same, it's the same idea, except we control more settings. So generally you can get rid of it in the same lab. It just would depend, so I'd want to look at your sleep study, go over your sleep history before I would be able to give you a day.
And the other thing is now, because I'm older, and I have pains in my hip, my knees, so I always slept on my side, but I can't, because it's painful. So now I'm sleeping on my back, which is the worst thing. And I just get nervous. You're telling me I should come and see you?
You should come to see us. We're definitely that we have in our shop. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
Thank you, go to sleep a little bit.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I don't know exactly why you're waking up, but you have you seem okay with it. So you get up, you watch TV, you go back to sleep. As long as you're getting enough sleep, that may, be your particular pattern. It's not going to disrupt your REM cycle, so to speak. I mean, you are having an awakening in there. So some of the hormones and these type of things, but if you're not having any daytime symptoms from that, and you're not complaining about it, I wouldn't complain about it.
You've mentioned melatonin a number of times. Now, that's not habit forming. It's right. So if you were to go to someplace like Duane Reade, I've never done this, but I would assume you could go in maybe with a reputable.
Reputable is a good word.
The Duane Reade, I don't know if Duane Reade or Walgreens has their own version of melatonin.
They do.
So that might be.
So I don't know. So I'll just kind of go back up front.
And how many milligrams is there?
So melatonin is a good question because I do talk about melatonin a lot, and we do use it for jet lag, sleep disorders, and circadian rhythm disorders, like people work at night. Now melatonin is interesting because it's not FDA regulated. What you buy on the shelf may or may not be melatonin. So we've done some studies. I think at one of my old colleges, the School of Pharmacy did a test, and some of them had 100 milligrams and said they had 5, and some had nothing. So it can vary, and that's why the regulation matters. Sometimes I will send people to a compounding pharmacy so that I know it's melatonin that they're getting. And it just depends on what the situation is, what milligram that I provide. But it can be just a little bit. It doesn't need to be 5 or 10 milligrams to really get the job done. But I do want to know it's melatonin. There are some brands that I would probably say were a little bit better than others. There's nothing I can endorse like Walgreens or Duane Reade. I guess they're combined now, but that's if you wanted to do something like that and that was appropriate for you, and it's not appropriate for everyone because it can cause vivid dreaming, and it's not without its side effects too. I would have your physician send it to a compounding pharmacy.
Just any suggestion for parents with newborns and for their sleep issues?
Oh, for sure. General suggestions in terms of your sleep?
Yeah, both actually. I guess they're
that-
dependent on each other.
Huh?
It's dependent on each other.
It's depending. Yeah, so, at first, it's very difficult for me to kind of tell you exactly just a blanket overstatement of what you should do with a newborn because they sort of control you for a little bit more than you can control them. That gets into different parenting styles and, let them scream it out, let them not. So whether you're someone that would prefer a schedule, it's just to make sure that you are able to get between you and your partner, enough sleep, which can be difficult with a newborn. But yeah, it's like, can you get 7 hours of sleep? Is there some time? And that's what I would employ napping. Is that if you can get some time to nap, even if it's 20 minutes during the day, can be refreshing for you, to keep you from falling asleep at work or when you're doing something that requires sustained attention. Okay. Any other questions? You have a question?
What kind of pillows we should use to sleep?
What kind of pillows? Oh, I do get asked about pillows. So there's not a specific kind of pillow.
There are so many in the TV, you don't know which to choose.
You know, there's so many to choose from.
Yeah, they have the best pillow.
Everybody's got the best. I have the best one now. Pillows are person dependent. So the there are certain pillows that we use to put between the knees for people that sleep on their side, or pillows for people that use CPAP. But there's not a specific pillow that I would say, oh, this brand of pillow is this type of pillow.
No fancy pillow.
No fancy pillow. So whatever's comfortable for you. Is what, nothing that puts your head too far forward, because that's going to put your spine out of alignment, but, just a regular pillow, whatever, so if it's feathers or foam, whatever works for you is your pillow. Yeah, we haven't perfected the sleep pillow yet, but when I do,
So which works better, if you have 20 minutes and you're sleeping, which works better, meditating for 20 minutes or a power nap?
Again, that would be person dependent. So if you're someone who has a lot of trouble with insomnia, I might not ask you to sleep then, but if you're someone that's driving or you're at work and you have 20 minutes, I would take that time to get a little bit of sleep because it can be wake promoting. But if it's just 20 minutes, if you sleep longer, that can cause some what we call sleep inertia or sleep drunkenness. So if you ever slept for an hour and a half and woke up and felt like felt worse than you did when you went to sleep, that's the sleep inertia. You're coming out of sleep and you're still drunk from it. So that's why I recommend short naps, to help be better beneficial for alertness. Anybody else have any other questions?
Only one comment. My cat could sleep on the bed next to me on the pillow for 8 hours. I can't sleep that way, but fast asleep, nothing bothers her. So I think we should adopt the cat philosophy.
Yes, we should. 22 hours a day, and that's it. Very good. Okay, well, I appreciate it. So you all coming.
For giving us our sleep seminar tonight. Thank you for coming. And now Andy is going to give us our